Whoa, we're back for some more Bleach Soul Resonance, and today we're taking not really a look at, more so that I'm going to be talking about the video that MK has uploaded here. It is a sort of outreach to talk about cheaters in the community currently, and how they are slowly but surely bleeding the community of its whales and dolphins, so on and so forth, with a decent number of them posting or at least confirming that they've sold their accounts and whatnot. And while this video is not going to be super long, and I'm not just going to talk over the entirety of this video because I just don't think it is worth restating every point that they make, you should go watch their video. I will link that down either in the description or the comment section. I do want to talk about some experience with cheaters and like private server stuff as well. I'm going to loop that in there. So just to sort of, I guess, get a little off topic. And one of the reasons that I really do feel for this cause is I come from Dokkan Battle, and Dokkan Battle about a year and a half ago-ish, maybe more, had this issue where a well-known private server was using it as sort of a festering ground, a breeding ground for illicit activities concerning minors and the like. And I just think that, and while Gacha obviously is already predatory, offering any sort of service that gets you a sort of, a free or low paying benefit to the extent of, cheating in these gachas, acquiring, access to these otherwise prize and sometimes hundreds, if not thousands of dollar accounts. It's very tempting, and it creates sort of a power imbalance that I know this is like going way too far. I mean, I'm talking about the nuclear option, but one of the reasons I just don't like a lot of these sources for this stuff, a lot of the program keepers for this stuff, a lot of the communities around this stuff, is that Gacha already being very, very heavy-handed in its predatory nature. I mean, even a game like Bleach Soul Resonance, which is really, really free to play, I will always say that at the end of the day, it is a mobile game and it is predatory inherently. There is no gacha that escapes this. Your favorite waifu doesn't make this not true. It just is what it is, and we play them knowing that fact. But onto a less like severe matter. I mean, less severe matter, obviously. It just, laying the groundwork for why I feel particularly strongly about anyone able to sell or accumulate accounts or programs that manufacture this result, right? Is just, I don't trust people with that sort of power. I don't trust people leading that sort of community. I don't know, it bad taste in my mouth every time I see people who peddle cheats or promote private servers. I'm not saying that your private server is, the island, but I simply have seen where it can lead when handled by the wrong people. I'll say that. Which is why I don't participate, period. It's why a lot of times I've said in my own videos that I don't really join and participate in a lot of, Discord servers. I'm a loner at heart. I kind of just keep to myself. And I don't really like getting mixed up in community stuff. But on to the, talking point at hand, which is whales. Whales are obviously going to be having a tough time quantifying, qualifying, and confirming or affirming their desire to spend money on the game if, put plainly, they can't compete. It seems small, and it seems almost like a laughing matter, and I do, I get it. I believe it was Giku who posted a game news update, or an update in the game news section of the Discord for Bleach Soul Resonance, saying like, hey, this is the video, this is what's happening. A lot of people who spend hundreds of dollars on their account can't compete with these cheaters. And, there are some people who posted like a, laughing emoji under that. And I do, from their end, I understand, if you're low spending free to play, why that's humorous. It's like, oh, I can't win at my video game that I spend money in. Sure. That's short term, though. You're thinking very short term if that is like, the funniest thing in the world to you. I get it. I get why. because for the longest time, free-to-plays and low spenders have a... There's almost this like this terse sort of connection they have to each other. But let me say, and I always will say this on my channels, which are geared around free-to-play players predominantly, the whale is not your enemy. The whale is hopefully what keeps these games as free-to-play as they are. If people are paying for the game at the top end, then the developers feel less incentivized to completely throw away the bag at the low end. I mean, I will say, like, you might play games that maybe aren't that free to play. You know, maybe Dokkan Battle compared to Bleach Soul Resonance isn't that free to play. Japanese gacha typically have that problem. That said, you will never see a more whale-centric game than one that's about to, like, die, where they're just, like, milking it out. When these games succeed, when they feel comfortable, when they feel like they have a little breathing room and they're not beholden to, you know, these large IPs or, you know, their investors or anything like that, that is sort of when you get the wide berth that games like Genshin can create, that games like Honkai can create, that games like Zenless can create, that games like, you know, any number of like uber successful mobile games, right? It's like those games typically have that quality because they're just in the lead, right? I'm not saying that they're the most free-to-play games either. I'm just saying that comfort leads to these free-to-play developments. Look at Dokkan Battle giving away they're completely freely giving away one of the SSRs, the LRs, I guess I should say, in its anniversary recently. I think the 10th anniversary, right? They completely free. They gave you a ticket. They said, pick any of these 6 characters we released during this anniversary, and you just get them. And while for a lot of people, they might be like, oh, well, you know, it's the 10th anniversary. It's like, well, guess what? That game made it to 10 years. That game's been successful for 10 years, right? It's like now that we've seen sort of a downward slope even in Dokkan and they've started modernizing, we've actually seen the less free-to-play practices start to sort of bloom in the wake of Moro Arc maybe coming out, Super getting remastered, etc., right? Like, games at their top, games at the peak, games doing, like, really well, they feel pretty they typically, at least in this is all vibes-based, sorry if I'm, you know, so unaware or anything, but vibes-based. In my opinion, in my estimate, they tend to be a little more lenient when they can get away with it. That said, I mean, you know, Epic 7's a good example of that. I played Epic 7 for years, if that was the case. So, yeah, I mean, just to sort of recap on the idea here, I think it is important too, if you are playing these games long term, if you want Bleach Soul Resonance to be successful, if you want Bleach Soul Resonance to continue to get the, you know, retain the free-to-play rewards that it currently maintains, hopefully to get the outreach in the Crunchyroll community, in the Crunchyroll like publisher team, right? The people who, you know, look after the development of the NA server, or the global server, I should say. Then I would, you know, rally alongside people like MK, people like the various mods and people with accounts of their experience throughout the video. Again, I don't want to show that entire video. I don't want to go recount or you know, just list a bunch of talking points from that video. So, you know, in my these are mostly just my off the top talking points here. But yeah, I'm as sort of a free to play talking head, as a sort of a free to play and low spending, I guess low spending, because I guess I do spend $5 a month so I can buy B0, so I can get the B0 characters, right? So I guess low spending, if you really want to say that. I felt it important to sort of cover this and draw the line in the sand, or actually just unblur or blur the line in the sand and say, hey, if you're free to play and you see a bunch of whales talking about this, it's not in your best interest to be like, oh, boo-hoo, so big old whale can't get 1,000,000 trillion damage faster than the cheaters. It's not, it doesn't really serve you. I promise that these games tend to spiral when this happens. They aren't upheld by a cheater's by this narrative that, you know, whales are against you. I mean, when I see someone be like, oh, my B6, you know, Hitsugaya. I mean, there's someone on, you know, we've got people on Twitter, you know, posting a lot of information. People like Bleach BSR, who posts a lot of information for the community, a lot of showcases and tests for the community on Twitter. And at no point have I ever thought, oh my god, these whales are making videos. Like, how does that, like, what? Like, why would we act like that, right? That doesn't make any sense. You know, it's nice to see these characters at their highest point. It's nice to have a reference point. It's nice to have a well-rounded example of what you can expect from characters. And it's nice to just have community members who are chill, like, right? Like, I don't know. I shudder to imagine that, like, every free-to-play player has somehow had, like, this weird experience with whaling that has made them the devil to you, more so than cheaters who are going to cause the, you know, a recession for the game, right? Like, if these players stop paying, if they stop playing, you know what's going to happen. It's not going to be like, they're going to be like, oh no, we got to make it even more free to play. They're going to say, okay, let's pump and dump. Let's put a lot of things in the game that people are going to buy up real quick. The really dedicated people will whale real quick, and then let's just leave. We'll just end service, right? I don't want to say it's that dire. I really don't think that this is, you know, it's an immediate thing, but over time, this bleeding does matter, especially when you're a game like Bleach Soul Resonance, which is still trying to find its content footing. Bleach Soul Resonance is very good, but it is certainly still in its infancy. We're half anniversary in. We haven't really gotten any big gameplay, you know, event updates, and I would say that they're still trying to figure out what that content style looks like in the long term. And to imagine that sort of ending before, you know, imagine that sort of ending before we really see TYBW stuff and, you know, modern, you know, Core 4 stuff and all these, like, hype moments that we want to see in this Bleach Soul Resonance style. I mean, this is a very exciting game. Like, imagine this goes the way of Naruto mobile, which, I mean, most of you, I'm sure, that game does extremely well in China, but it has no presence here because it's not global. It's not global. It's not accessible really easily. At least easily, it's not accessible, right? So I would hate to see Bleach Soul Resonance go the way of something like Naruto Mobile, which just doesn't have any sort of presence for us. That would really suck, because that's all that's really gonna happen if all of the whales disappear, because there's just no point in paying. If there's no point, and that's the thing, a lot of the whales, they'll just make free-to-play accounts. They'll just be like, oh, okay, there's like literally no point, like I can't get leaderboard, I can't, like, you know, quote unquote compete. You know, they put in this rank system, and the more that these whales leave, the less money that Global makes. It's going to become sort of like an Ouroboros, where the people leave and then they go, well, I guess we need less people to actually staff the Bleach Soul Resonance global version. Will we end up seeing more bugs on global? Will we end up seeing more delays of units? Will we end up seeing more delays of information, of gifts, of codes, of, you know, like, that could be that, like I said, slippery. I hate to be slippery slope, but it could be a thing as the version gets more decroded, generates less money, because the sum of the game's, like, you know, economy right now, I believe, is ran through China anyway. I think that's like where the game shows its biggest sales. So it would be nice to keep global healthy. It would be nice to keep global, you know, working like an actual machine. And so if you haven't, or, you know, if you've just only heard this through me, you've heard me yap-a-dap for a little bit here, head over to MK, who I will have linked somewhere in the description or in the comments itself, and please give that video a watch, listen to some accounts, maybe go to the report tickets that they show, and remember that doing this helps keep the face of Bleach. I mean, no cap, like, let's be honest. If Bleach Soul Resonance for a global audience goes away, we're back to nothing Bleach. Like, this is a godsend game as far as free-to-play and low spending goes. And I mean, Bleach Rebirth of Souls was cool for a bit. but it was kind of cool for a bit. Like Sparking Zero was cool for a bit because Sparking Zero was just not that good in its totality. Like it just didn't have enough to keep people playing. And Bleach Rebirth of Souls sort of had the same thing where it was very pretty, but it just didn't. But as an arena fighter, it didn't have enough meat to keep people playing. So if Bleach Soul Resonance goes away and you're a big fan of Bleach, you're back to having nothing. So even as a free, I'm not saying, you know, dump all your money into the game. I would never say that regarding a gacha game or a mobile game. I would never really say it's your money. I always say it's your money at the end of the day. Do with it what you want. I'm never going to tell people to spend their money, you know, that flatly. But as far as suggesting things go, if you're a free-to-play, low-spending player, consider supporting the global community by reporting the cheaters when you see them and questioning those 5 trillion, you know, damage scores you see on the leaderboards. It will help in the long run. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Lone. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the club. We'll go make it, by the way. And peace.